My name is Elise, otherwise known as Queen Elise. Today I will be talking about the challenges that I have overcome. I have a disability called cerebral palsy, which affects my movement and coordination, caused by a problem with the brain that occurs before, during, or soon after birth. I wasn't breathing for 7.5 minutes at birth. The doctors had to turn off the life support machines, but suddenly I began gasping for breath and they found a heartbeat. I was on life support for 3 weeks, and a machine that assisted my breathing for 2 weeks. I was then weaned off medication and tubes. I was finally allowed home to start my life. The doctors said I would be significantly brain damaged due to the amount of time I was starved of oxygen. They said my quality of life would be minimal. I would need 24-hour care for the rest of my life. They were unable to say if I would be able to smile, understand, have food by mouth, sit, walk or talk. At 8 weeks old I shocked everyone. I responded to a toy and I smiled. The doctors were amazed. However, I was like a little rag doll, very floppy. I was a year old when I was able to sit independently for 5 seconds, but a massive achievement for me. I loved feeling my feet and used to always push down when being held. I had a walking frame at 2.5 years old. I walked into Dorchester Hospital and they couldn't believe it was me. In 2008 I had epilepsy. I hated going to sleep and wondering if I would wake up in hospital. It was very scary for me and my family. The doctors and paramedics were amazing. Luckily I grew out of this and have been fit-free since 2010. Never again. I was so scared. I attended Footsteps Foundation in 2011 to 2018 in Oxfordshire. Footsteps is a place where people like myself have 3-week block intensive physio. I do 1.5 hours of floor work and then other 1.5 hours is on the spider. The spider is bungees attached on my harness to enable me to stand, walk on a treadmill and do activities that I couldn't do before going. The physios had me walking independently by the 2nd week. It took some fallings over, some bruises, but I didn't let that affect me. It was an amazing feeling. It was a dream come true. I always wanted to walk independently. Footsteps Foundation costs thousands of pounds to go for each session. In 2016, I had pneumonia. 2 weeks before my brother Ashton was born. I was rushed into hospital as they thought I had the onset of sepsis. That was the worst time of my life. It affected my movements, my strength. I couldn't walk for months. It affected everything. It attacked my nervous system and I couldn't stop shaking. It took about 3 months to recover from pneumonia. It was the worst time of my life. I pray now if I have a cold, it doesn't go to my chest. In 2018, my parents split up and it was the hardest time of my life. It was weird having one parent in the house. But school and college kept me entertained to keep my mind off it. I feel a lot happier now. I have always been in mainstream primary and secondary schools. In primary I was successful and was made a prefect. In secondary I applied for prefect, took a training day and an interview. I was over the moon. I was made senior prefect. I took my GCSEs at Preston Academy. Now I'm at Hayward College. Throughout my school life, teaching assistants have been a massive part of my life. It's important for me to make them as part of the interview process, so staff are able to see how they interact with me. We are all different, and for me it's finding the right balance with helping me enough and letting me feel like every other child in the classroom. A few things to consider if you have a student with a physical impairment at primary school are assemblies. Rather than sitting on a chair while everyone else sits on the floor, it would be better to allow the student to sit on the floor. School plays. Make sure that the student with a physical impairment is included as fully as is possible. Sitting at the side and watching is not very much fun. Sports day, I felt left out, forgotten and not involved, and sometimes embarrassed, and I'll explain why. In reception, the crawling race and the running race were great, as parents and teachers cheered me on and made me feel happy. But by year 4, children got faster as they finished, and I would have only just started, and I felt embarrassed. As lovely as intentions were from parents cheering, I wanted the ground to swallow me up. Forced friendships. I was forced to make friends with people who I wasn't close to. I just wanted to play with my friends, not friends that the teachers chose for me. Lunchtimes and in the classroom I was just sat with my assistant. It would have been nice to not feel different and have a friend. It's important to remember that what works and is appreciated at a young age does not always work as you get older. In secondary school, every effort was made. I felt included, like I was wanted, and I was keen to go to school. The TAs were very good, and all of the teachers were so understanding of my needs. In the classroom I was sat on a table with friends, and my assistant set me up and was there ready to help. But also I felt she distanced herself, so I had the opportunities to interact with friends. It was the perfect balance. So lunchtimes and assemblies I was able to be with friends. Nothing was too much trouble. The main thing was they listened to me as a person, asking how I felt about whatever was coming up, and went out of the way for me. They always had a positive can-do attitude. For once in my life I loved school. I have always received support from the PIMS team and occupational and physiotherapy teams. The most constant support has been from the PIMS team. The schools I attended have had help and advice on how to make the setting and curriculum accessible, and most importantly, they have supported my communication development. In the early years, I had a communication book, which made communicating quite a slow process. I was later allocated a communication device which allowed me to have voice output, but only for certain programmed messages. By the end of primary, I was using the Mind Express communication software on a laptop. This meant that I could communicate my wishes and feelings a little easier. I was introduced to eye gaze technology, which has allowed me to communicate more fully and access the curriculum through technology. It was only recently that I was referred for a communication assessment at Bristol Communication Aid Service. I was then allocated this clever piece of equipment that you see me using now. For anyone who is interested, it is a GridPad 12 with the Grid 3 software. So far, thanks to the PIMS team, I have access to emails and my mobile phone through the Grid 3 software. My grandmother couldn't believe it when I phoned her for the first time. She was shocked to hear my Queen's voice coming through her phone. My phone is linked to my communication aid, and I can now make and receive phone calls just like any other teenager. In the future, I would either like to become a motivational speaker or make presentations to groups of people who require training around physical impairment. I would also like to mentor students who have a physical impairment and are struggling with coming to terms with their personal condition. I have already made presentations in schools, and in the future, this is something that I would like to do more of. I hope you have enjoyed my story today. What I'm trying to say is I have never ever known what it's like to talk, run, walk, and feed myself without struggling or being in pain. And I'm never sad because I'm here and alive and life is worth living. It's beautiful. I hope you understand what have I been through, and I have overcome my challenges, and I will get more independent. Nothing will stop me ever. I am me. I am loved very much.